Okay, how to export full quality HD videos from Final Cut Express for any and all purposes. Here I am with my completed project, just about to export. So I want to make sure I have clicked on the timeline area but not clicked any specific clip, because if I do that and try to export, then Final Cut will just try to export that clip. So make sure no clips are highlighted individually. And then I'm going to head up to File and export, and I'm just going to select QuickTime Movie this time, not QuickTime Conversion. So I highlight that and specify where you want to save that. I'm just going to use this as an example, call it whatever. Include audio and video, yes, and markers we won't need. And this needs to be checked, make movie self-contained. If that's not checked, then it's likely going to be dependent on the program it was created in, or have other dependencies, and we don't want that. We just want a self-contained standalone video, so make sure that's checked, and then I'm going to save that. I've already done that, so I don't need to do it here. And this is just going to be a full quality duplicate, the highest quality. It's not going to compress anything or exclude anything. It's the maximum quality version of the project you've just created. So that's the route you want to go for that. But the problem is, I'm just going to highlight and go to get info for that file which I created earlier, showing you just like I did. It's 821 megabytes, and this is a 1 minute and 24-second video, so that's huge. It's way bigger than it needs to be to upload to the internet. So that's the problem with doing that, but it's great for saving the highest quality version. And you'll notice here total bit rate 77,000 kilobytes per second, which is it's about like a Blu-ray. It's super high quality, but it doesn't need to be that for internet streaming, because it can be just as high quality but compressed. You're not going to see any diminished quality from the product that we're eventually going to talk about making. So the problem with that file is it's just too big. So the second option is to, well, first I'll tell you that was a 1080 version of this project. If I just want to take down the size to say 720p for high def, then the next thing that I would do, or the other thing that I would do, got to get out of Finder. Next thing that I would do is go into File and drop that down. I'm going to go to QuickTime Conversion as soon as my slow computer lets me do that. File, export using QuickTime Conversion. Alright, so QuickTime Movie, that's fine. We're going to go right over to Options this time. And I've got this already set up. This looks good. It's 1280 by 720. Encoding multipass, that's fine. H.264, that's what we want. And all the sound settings are good, so that's okay. And then I've got this next box that says use most recent settings. Well, I don't really know what my most recent settings are, so that makes me a little nervous. I'm going to drop that down. What looks good here? I'm going to say broadband high looks the best. Okay. But the problem with that is if I go back to options, whoa, the size of my movie has changed from 720 to 360. That's bad. And this is going to be terrible bit rate, very low quality. So what we want to do is just not touch this button at all. We just want to go to the options, set it like it was before, and leave it. But since I've messed that up by clicking broadband high, I need to go back up here. Settings, H.264, that's good. Frame rates, we want to be automatic at the current FPS, just to stay what it is. And the data rate we also want to be automatic, which will keep it at that really high bit rate that we saw with our original video we saved. Best quality, that's good. Okay. And okay. So now it's going to go back to most recent settings, and we just want to leave it like that and hit save. Alright, so I've got that one saved here. I'm going to right click it to get the info. So here we got one that's 430 megabytes instead of the 820, and that's just because it's a 720p version instead of a 1080. As you see right here, and the bit rate is 40,000 instead of 77,000, just because it's now a smaller video, as in 720 instead of 1080. But the quality is going to be exactly the same on that one. Alright, so now we want to talk about reducing the file size without losing any quality. There's a couple ways to do this. We're going to go the MP4 route, just because we've covered the QuickTime file routes to give you another option. And all it is with the bit rate. When you reduce the bit rate, you reduce the file size. So once again, as soon as my slow computer lets me, okay, export using QuickTime conversion, and the format's going to be MPEG-4, and we're going into the options. All right, MP4 is what we wanted on. Video format H.264. We don't want to select MP4 again. We want to make sure it's H.264. Otherwise, the quality will be worse. This is the format for the best looking video with the lowest space. Alright, so here I have 10,000. I've already put this in here. 10,000 kilobits per second. And that's what we want. The range of about 8,000 to 12,000 is about like watching high-def television from satellite or cable. So that's where we want it. Image size 720 is fine. That's good. And frame rate, we're going to leave that at current. Keyframe automatic, and here we got video options. Best quality will take, for this 1 minute 24-second video, best quality takes about 22 minutes to export that. If I go to faster encode, it only takes about 6 minutes. And comparing those, there was very little difference, so it's just up to you how much time you want to take to get that minor quality difference, if there even is any. And I'll show you a comparison here in a second. So OK on that, and then everything else is good to go. So I click OK, but I've already saved that. So I'll just click on that one and go to Get Info. And this is 720. Notice the bit rate is down to 10,000 from 44,000, so that's a lot smaller, and that's why it's 107 megabytes, a quarter of the size of the 720 version that we just did before. And now we'll look at some of the quality differences here. So here we go. This is alright, this is our 40 kilobytes per second QuickTime video versus the 10 kilobytes per second MP4 that we just created. So if you look at this image, just a little shot from the video, there's very little difference here. And so this file is 4 times the size as this one in video form. And you'll notice maybe a little bit more smoothness on her face. The lines on the jacket, the yellow to the black, is a little bit more crisp than it is over here, but very diminished, very little diminished quality, as you can see, if any. And you've taken the file size down by 75%. So yeah, a pretty good option there. And then here I'll just show you the multi-pass versus the single pass. So on the left side is the multi-pass version, on the right is the single pass, which takes 6 minutes to export, and this one takes 22 for my 1 minute 24-second video. Again, very little difference. You'll maybe notice, again, just a little bit more smoothness perhaps in some areas, but I can hardly see anything. So I think it's better just to go the single pass route and be quicker. Alright, and the other option that I was going to mention to you, if you don't want to compress it down to size in Final Cut, you can just export it full quality and then use some kind of an external compressor. Handbrake is a really good one. This program right here that you can download for free from the internet seems to do a really good job of compressing video, but the problem I notice is if I just export if I just export the video into the QuickTime file without using the conversion, it comes out an Apple Intermediate codec, which is the main codec for Final Cut Express. And for some reason, Handbrake won't deal with Apple Intermediate codec, from what I can see. But if I do my QuickTime conversion route with my 720p version, which you could also go 1080p, if I use QuickTime conversion, I can specify the H.264 codec, and that works well with Handbrake. So I would just specify the file that I want to use, Handbrake file, and I'd hit open source, and that would give me my window to open the file that I want. And once it was in there, I don't need to change anything here. And then I just hit start, and it'll take about less than a minute to do. So it's really quick to process a video that way. So that's a good option. And I'll just show you a comparison. So this is Final Cut Express 10,000 kilobit version here, and this is the Handbrake 10,000 kilobit version right here, which it naturally exported. So that should be a very close comparison. You'll notice with the Handbrake it looks just a tad smoother on her face, and you can maybe see just with this hair right here a little bit that it's slightly more crisp on the Handbrake side than on the Final Cut Express side. So just some very slight minor differences there, but that should give you enough to work with to get your file down to a good size for uploading without losing any quality. Maybe just a tiny bit, but imperceptible to most of your average humans. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully that was helpful. Another thing I might mention before I shut this video off, I'm going forever here, just stop it when you need to, is make sure when you're about to start a new sequence, start editing your project, that the sequence settings match your video settings. And you can see, if you don't already know, if you just bring your files into Final Cut, it will tell you, hey, this is a 720p video. It doesn't tell me the P, but it tells me the size and the frame rate over here, and also the compressor that's used, Apple Intermediate Codec, H.264 on these, which is what it naturally comes from with the camera that I use, and the data rate, which so these would be 5.6 megs per second, 56,000 kilobits per second, which is higher than we needed to save it at. But the most important thing there will be the size of the video, the 1280 by 720. And if I just go over to my sequence, right-click it, computer is so slow today. I've been doing too much video. So if I just right-click that, go to Settings, and then I want to hit Load Sequence Preset. So this is what I want it to be. 720p, 30 frames per second is where I'm at roughly. Apple Intermediate Codec. That's just what Final Cut usually deals with. So I've got some other options here. I could say I want it to be 1080i. Unfortunately, Final Cut doesn't have 1080p option. So there are some other things to work with there, but the closer you can get to what your video actually is, the better it's going to be. So if I've already edited my sequence in 1080i 50, for example, and I change it to that, okay, it's not going to change anything in this timeline. I'm going to actually have to go to File, New Sequence to get that going, and then I could then highlight and drag this in to that new sequence, and it would have to render out the video to match those sequence settings, which would probably mess up or distort the file size or the way that it looks. So you want to start your editing in the sequence settings that match your video. That is the best idea for a smooth project. So anyway, lots of tips there on working with video and exporting. Get a good file size and fantastic quality. There you go.